let's watch the "You don't need that ship," and he's got it in quotes. So this is an opinion piece from Space Tomato. So I don't know. Oh, very morphologist at the beginning. But the first thing that I want to say is I always originally looked at Space Tomato, and I don't know what you guys think about, like, as straight copium, straight positivity. And the more we've interacted, the more I realize we somewhat agree on things, but maybe just take like different points of view at it. And just the title, I'm like hooked. I'm absolutely hooked. Thank you, Homeroom. Oh yeah, I think Tomato's really smart. So.
Star Citizen is a game in development, funded by the fans. This funding model, while successful, has come under scrutiny quite a bit, for good reason. With the biggest funding event of the year just weeks behind us and the game passing yet another milestone in funding, I think there is no better time than now to talk about ship sales, their dangers, and why you don't need to buy that ship. Not gonna lie, this is gonna be quite the topic, but as always, I'd like to thank you for coming to my Tomato Talk. The idea behind ship sales is pretty apparent, but for those who don't follow this game much, let me explain. Star Citizen is funded by backer donations. These are referred to as donations by CIG and are not purchases.
Pledges,
Because of this, ships are framed as an additional perk of backing the game. Every one of these ships is or will be available in-game once they are built. It is not required to buy these ships to enjoy the game. In fact, I tell people every chance I get not to buy these ships. I'm not one to usually tell people what to do with their money, I just want people to know that it's not required. You can rent and purchase ships in-game, and they will stay with you unless there's a database wipe, which doesn't happen very often. This is because as the game is developed, there may be balance passes that are needed because the game isn't complete. These ships you can buy with real money aren't always available though. No, that'd be far too easy.
Like the thing about that I've noticed too lately is people will like kind of complain about the fact that, yeah, you could buy them in game, but you'll lose them. And it's like, have you never played Escape from Tarkov? Have you never played Rust? Have you never played any game that has wipes? Like, so many games have wipes. And like Star Citizen, if like they've talked about the economy so many times, I feel like Star Citizen is due for more wipes. I think I remember Chris Roberts saying it should take, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but it was a month to earn a constellation was what they were kind of looking for the pricing of things, and then it would go higher from there. And why haven't we, was it 2 weeks originally? Whatever it is. That's probably reasonable considering the scale of the constellation now. I think like we could probably do for more of those things, but I think other people would argue that like there's no features in the game yet. We don't need this. There's no game, blah, 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 blah. So I don't know, man. But the idea of when people don't, it almost sounds like an excuse to buy the ships that you're gonna like. I feel like it's people justifying buying spaceships for themselves, even though they know they don't need to, you know?
Many ships in game are not normally available to be purchased by money, but there are specific times during the year when these ships are made available, such as the recent Intergalactic Aerospace Expo. And sometimes there are even discounts on different packages. Now, these sales are not the cause of the issue we're about to dive in, but oh boy, do they not exacerbate the issue.
Yeah.
If you look at the comments following the release of the newest ships to the game, the Raft and the Odyssey, you'll see many discussions surrounding the why of these ships. Why choose this ship over the Freelancer or the Constellation or the Hull B? Why choose the Carrack for exploration if this ship can refine fuel? And as many of you know, this doesn't start with the ship reveal. These ships can have their names leaked to the public with very difficult to decipher design, functionality, and size. Disregarding whether this is a marketing stunt or legitimate leaks, these vague representations of a ship are enough to earn a definite purchase from some. Again, this is not necessarily a problem, as long as those spending their money know what they're getting into. You do you. But these questions point to a pretty key part of Star Citizen that I simply won't shut up about. Choice. There are already some pretty distinct use cases for the existing ships, but
I hope he gets into this. He doesn't touch yet on the fact that, like, ship sales could possibly just be ruining progression in Star Citizen, period. I think that's one of the things that bothers me about them. I've kind of come to grips with that, but at the same time, like, the idea of them in the first place makes it so difficult. Like, imagine a world where you do have that choice, right? And but the choice was a starter ship that is like, let's think about this for a second. Like a Hull A as a starter ship, a Prospector as a starter ship, a Vulture as a starter ship. I think this is maybe a little too excessive, but something like a very early mining ship, a very early cargo hauling ship, a very early salvage ship, a very early combat ship, and then go from there. So you keep the choice, you give the choice to the player of what role they want to play, or you can have something like a more all-around experience, but they're not good at anything. But I think, like, I almost feel like the starter ships, like the 100i, Aurora, or whatever, as much as I enjoy those ships, I feel like they can almost just be removed from the game, and then you give that player the choice to start out in a profession or something like that, right? Almost as if you were choosing skills for your character at the beginning. You kind of could do that through ships, and then progress from there into any other aspect of the game through the game. What if only those ships were available for purchase, right? That would be interesting, but then we wouldn't have $400 million. So there's that dilemma. But just when you look at it only from the perspective of how much more interesting would Star Citizen be, how much more active would the player base be, I'm curious. I wonder what would happen if you had those things. It's kind of, I just sort of thought about that right now in the moment, but it seems like that might be kind of cool.
But with at least more than half a decade to go before this game, quote, goes live, I'm sure we can expect many, many ships to come before and after that point. These ships are unique,
they'll always be better than the
focused,
last
and
one.
They're meant to force you to make a decision. And the fact of the matter for the average person when it comes to most ships is that you just don't need them. To put this into perspective, let's take a look at one of the new ships, the Raft. It's a cargo hauler with a unique industrial design, a decent size for a small freighter, and a beautifully designed interior.
Hell yeah.
But the real reason to buy this ship as a cargo hauler over others is for the quick loading and unloading functionality, which will drastically reduce your downtime and loading time, which will cost you money in the future.
Which we know nothing
With the
about.
exterior cargo storage and a crane that can add and remove standardized boxes, you'll be able to get in and out of an area much more quickly than a regular loading ship like a Freelancer. This is key. And while the ship launched without that functionality, in the grand scheme of the game, that puts it in a unique position. Currently, the only other ships to haul exterior cargo are the Nomad, the Raylan, and the Hull series, all with their own unique offerings. And with cargo loading and unloading processes taking extended amounts of time in the future, each of these ships will excel in certain scenarios. So the exterior cargo sets this ship apart from the Freelancer and Constellation. The size, support, and facilities put it a step above the Nomad. The tractor beam, VTOL, and size give it an edge up on a Hull A, and the Raylan is in a different class of its own.
It also
These small
doesn't
features
exist.
can make all the difference for the cargo hauler who wants to make quick pickups and drop-offs from
Yo,
frontier
Tomato is
locations or
really
space
mad about the
stations that might
Raft.
charge hefty prices for the labor. It is
It
a
really is.
specific application, but one that many people will dedicate their time to. And with the number of ships being created for this game, it may be the case that this ship simply won't fit the gameplay you have in mind. A lot of work is going into this game to make sure players can specialize in functions that nobody else can do. Ship components, resource management, navigation, ship engineer, security, and more. All of these roles will be available to all players, and there are going to be many more ships and many more ways to play as well. For the most part, the applications of these features and the specifics of these ships in general are still pretty theoretical. So giving money to earn one of these ships for the specific features that they have,
I think calling it pretty theoretical is putting it lightly as well.
Isn't necessarily the best idea. But if you do find yourself asking why you should be interested in one ship over another, it may be worth considering that neither of those ships really match what you need. This video may be perceived to be attacking citizens in some way, but I'm really just trying to put the message out there for people wondering what ship they should buy. Consider whether you really need it, or will really need it for your specific future. There are certainly good reasons to get these ships now, but I think it's worth considering the motivation. Speaking of ships, ironically,
I don't like that point at all. Considering what you need for your future. Why would that ever be a why are we making that a consideration at all when making our purchases? And that's the part that I'm like, I think that is the inherent problem with the ship sales, is I know that's how everyone looks at it, but whenever you give people like crap about or like you give CIG kind of crap about the ship sales, people say it's a pledge, but that's all it should be. And I don't know. It's when we start thinking about it in this way, I think it does just end up becoming a problem. Like, I want to be a cargo hauler, so I'm going to buy the entire cargo hauling lineup instead of, like, the point that I was making before, starting out with the hull A, doing low-end cargo, maybe low-end cargo missions, building up that rep where you're required to need a bigger ship. Then you keep grinding until you can afford that big ship. Man, then I could do the bigger missions and get more rep and more rewards and more things. That's a video game for me. So I don't know what this is, but just starting at the finish line has always seemed weird to me.
I'm running a massive ship giveaway over on my website. And while you won't have to spend money on these ships, I'm happy to present to you more than $600 worth of possible winnings. I've also talked about the ships in this video as well as the rest of IAE in my recent podcast episode with the Astropub and Execute from the Inforunners. And finally, if you enjoyed this opinion-based essay and want to see more videos like it, please consider checking out my Patreon. I plan on making more videos like these available exclusively to my supporters starting next year. I hope you learned something in this video, and I'll catch you in the next. Thanks to my top supporters TK, Ken Garcia, Valiant15, The Alpaca, Holstencoop, The Huntress, Dasek, Guilty Conscious, Extreme Tuber 7, El Gordo, Jarzy, Jin, Bilal Ilyasem, Brian Peterson, and That Aussie Guy.
Nice. I'm just not sure I got the point necessarily. That's where I got lost. Like, I guess you should, like, the point is to think about, do you really need it? But I just don't know. I guess he's fine with ship sales in a way, but because it is what it is, so I might as well inform people better about their choices and if they really even need to make a choice. And I think when he touched on, like, the choice, the decision that they have to make, I think that's the whole thing, where people are buying ships instead of making the decision. They just buy the next one anyway because they don't want to have to make one, you know? Rainbow says, Salty Mike, I have ships I like. I don't know. Hold on, it scrolled up a little fast. I don't know what I want to do in the game. I don't melt because I want stuff I really enjoy flying and playing with. I don't understand this mentality of I got to get this because maybe I might want it later. I don't think that's necessarily the mentality. I think like yours is kind of an issue too. Is like I'm buying this ship and that ship and this thing because I enjoy it. But I don't think we ever look at the health of the video game before we look at what we want. Like I want to do this. I want to do that. And wouldn't the health of the video game be so much stronger if we looked at it from that perspective of, well, what would a really good starting point look like and what would the progression of the game look like? And that's what I think is the most important, and that's what I'm always pushing, but that is so far gone and will never be. So, but anyway, good video. It's not exactly what I thought. I thought he would touch on the detriment of ship sales more in general, but I like that he's at least informing people to like, hey, open your eyes a little bit here, guys, you know, which is really good.